Come on in, pull up a chair, and take a load off because today I'll be paging through and reviewing the Pathfinder Lost Omens Ancestry Guide from Paizo Inc. Is this a cornucopia overflowing with player character creation options as far as ancestries and heritages? Or are you going to open this book up, take a peek inside, and wonder, what in the world is Paizo doing? Well, you're going to find out right after this. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang channel. As I mentioned in the open, I am going to be paging through and reviewing the Pathfinder Lost Omens Ancestry Guide, which is from Paizo Inc. This 144-page hardcover arrived in stores in late February 2021, and it does carry an MSRP of $34.99. Do want to mention that the fine folks over at Paizo Inc. were kind enough to send me this review copy, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the Gaming Gang have received any other sort of compensation for me to share my thoughts about this book. It's important for you to know that. That said, let's swing on over to the other camera because here we've got the Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. This contains 28 ancestries and heritages kind of together. It's the ancestries are kind of the main thing. You're going to find 14 brand new ancestries, as well as some expanded ancestries, 14 of those as well, for ancestries that appeared in the Advanced Player's Guide, as well as the Lost Omens Character Guide. We're going to jump in. You're going to find loads and loads of artwork throughout this as well. So let's jump on in. Let's get started. A couple things I'm going to point out here is I am going to stay picture in picture. Hey. And because, strangely enough, people actually do try to pirate books from some of my videos here, I am going to leave my hand in certain areas on pages and things like that. But you're still going to get to see exactly what's going on with this book, what you can expect to find within. So we have a lot of authors. We have a lot of artists as well. Far too many for me to mention, but we certainly do want to give them credit because this is a very striking book. There is loads and loads of artwork within this. Do want to point out that it's not detrimental to the gameable material contained within because we don't see it as much these days as we did maybe a decade ago. But we used to have issues where you would run across role-playing game books where there was tons and tons of art and far too much fluff and not enough gameable material for your money. That's not the case here. So here we see these are the expanded ancestries and heritages. We will actually go through each of these. And I apologize. I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce things. I'm up on Pathfinder 2nd edition, but I don't necessarily know how to pronounce everything in the books. So we have the Aasimar, who are essentially offspring of Celestials. So we're going to get a bit of an expansion of the ancestry itself. We might get some heritage information, some optional heritages, and then we get some new feats as well for each of these. So very, very cool. Then we have the Ozarketi. Yeah, I know. But these are offspring of the sea peoples. The various different sea peoples from the inner sea. We got cat folk. Don't really need any explanation for the cat folk. Do I? Now, I will point out there is, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think there is an overabundance of animal themed ancestries being introduced. That's just my opinion. I'm just not into furries and stuff like that. Some of them are cool. I'll point out some of them are cool. We got the changeling. I like the changelings. I think the changelings are a very, very cool ancestry to choose from. They are shapeshifters. Something to point out if you're not familiar or overly familiar with the concepts of ancestries and heritages, easy way to kind of break that down is the ancestry is like human beings. So as far as humans, that would be an ancestry in Pathfinder. A heritage would be kind of a subset of that ancestry. So Irish, as an example, would be the heritage. We have the Dhampir, which are offsprings of humans and vampires. Or the vampire, as some people will like to pronounce. We got the Duskwalkers, who are reincarnated souls. The Hobgoblin really doesn't need any additional expansion on that. So we've got the various different hobgoblins of Golarion. We've got some different heritages as well. And then we've got the ancestry feats. Kobolds. I always like kobolds. I liked kobolds back when they were little dog creatures, not reptilian creatures. So we had the various different kobolds of Golarion. The Leshy, I think, are kind of fun. The Leshy are actually plant-based and fungi-based. So it's like a little mushroom creature here. So the fruit Leshy, the lotus Leshy, the root Leshy. And then, of course, we've got their feats as well. Lizard folk, they don't really need much of an introduction now, do they? So we've got the different kinds of lizard folk as well as their feats. The orcs. Though something to mention is that we are starting to see less use of the terminology race. We start to see more references to cultures, the ancestries, heritages, and things like that. There's a movement away from specific types of creatures being inherently evil, such as orcs and goblins and kobolds and the hobgoblins. I don't know how much I buy into that, and I understand where it's coming from. I do understand where it's coming from. But just saying that a particular race, let's say, is inherently evil does not necessarily mean they're all evil. So, but I understand where the movement comes from, and I'm okay with it. So we've got the Tengu, which are bird people. They are bird people that feature more of the characteristics of birds. We've got a new ancestry we're going to see later on in the book that kind of flips that around. And then we've got tieflings. Once again, I don't think we really need any more depth to be jumping into there as far as tieflings. I think most people know what the tieflings are. So here we've got the new ancestries and heritages. So we're going to get a breakdown of them here, talking about them, some new special rules, such as flying player characters. So we've got the androids. So androids are rare. Androids come from a crashed spaceship. Yeah, I know. The artwork is kind of cool on these, though. And then, of course, you will notice we have the little breakdown, the little sidebars with some additional information as well. So we've got the various different android heritages as well as the various different feats that you can choose as well. The Aphorites, which are beings of law, is essentially what these are. They are beings forged from law. So we've got their feats as well. We have the Beastkin, which are, once again, these are not specific like cat folk. These are more along the lines of lycanthropes. So we're creatures. And we've got a variety of these as well. We have the fetchling, and the fetchling come from a shadow plane, and they control shadow. So they escaped from the Great Cataclysm and fled underground, and the corruption of shadow has kind of settled into them. So I found these to be pretty interesting. I thought this is pretty cool. So as you can see here, their feats have to do with concealment, controlling shadows, sculpting shadows. We have the flesh warp, which are constructs made from flesh. So a great example would be, say, Frankenstein's monster. That said, the flesh warp don't necessarily, they're not necessarily evil or not intelligent. They're just like other characters would be. Some cool artwork here as well. It's like there's some mention about with the flesh warp, there's some mention that basically outsiders might look at them as a monster, but those familiar with that particular creature, character, what have you, they're like, what are you talking about? They're one of us. What do you mean they're a monster? We've got the Ganzi, which now these are creatures of chaos. Or we had the creatures of law. These are beings of chaos, which does not necessarily make them evil. We're not talking old school, right? We're not talking old school where it's law and chaos and neutrality. We have the 9-point alignment wheel basically here. We've got Geniekin, which are basically offspring of genies and humans. We've got the Ifrit. So we have some different elemental heritages that are available. They are not simply restricted to only, say, genie folk. We've got the Uried. We've got the Suli. These are also Geniekin. These are the main elemental type Geniekin. We've got the Sylph. These are planar scions. We've got the Undine, who are water. They come from the water plane. The Kitsune. They are shapeshifters as well. But they're shapeshifters, and they can change from human form to kind of like fox form. And they can remain in either guise as long as they want. The fox form is actually their natural form. They are not, they're not necessarily were creatures. They're a little bit different. Then we have sprites, which this is kind of interesting because now you can play a very, very tiny creature. You can play a pretty darn small player character here. Give you some different heritages as well. I thought these were kind of cool. This throws a whole new wrinkle into the player characters as well. Then we got the Strix. Now, remember I was talking about we have the ancestry that is the Tengu, which are the bird people. Well, the Strix are also bird people, but they retain more human aspects than bird aspects. So they have wings, they have claws, but the rest is more of a human-styled sort of creature or culture, heritage, what have you. We've got some ancestral gear as well to wrap up the book. We've got a glossary and index and a bit of an ad for the Advanced Player's Guide, which I did a review of already. So there you have the Pathfinder Lost Omens Ancestry Guide. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I will give you my final thoughts as well as a review score. So I found this to be pretty cool. I think this is actually very cool. I'll be the first to point out there are ancestries that I would not utilize in my games. They just don't call out to me. And I have to point out many of those are going to be the kind of animal-based ancestries out there. Now, that's just me. It doesn't mean you can't use them. That's just my take on things. This is a player-facing book, really, because, let's be honest, most game masters already have their hands full. They don't necessarily need to be memorizing everything from another book. Which, if you watch my series, So You Want to Be a Game Master, I already point out that when you have things like the player feats, the heritages, the ancestral feats that are in this book, you want your player characters to have to know exactly what those do, and you have an idea, as opposed to vice versa, to make your life easier. I really like the artwork throughout. I think the artwork is really, really nicely done. There is tons of material here for creating new kinds of characters. You've got 14 expanded ancestries as well as 14 brand new ancestries. So it's going to give the players out there a lot of various different options if they're looking to play something other than the traditional human, halfling, elf, dwarf, half-elf, so on. Is this an essential book that game masters need to own? I would say no. Mainly because unless you plan on incorporating all of these different ancestries into your games, you don't necessarily need to have this book. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't pick it up. I think it's really well done. I think there's a lot of cool material in here. It's just not critical that you own this book. So on a scale of 1 to 10, I do give the Pathfinder Lost Omens Ancestry Guide a 9 out of 10. I think it's really good. I just don't necessarily think it's critical that everybody needs to have it. All right, that is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when I upload videos such as this review, it'll also let you know when my live stream, the Gaming Gang Dispatch, airs Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube as I bring you the latest in tabletop gaming news. Do want to mention right now the Dispatch is on a short hiatus. It does return Monday, March 15th at 7 p.m. Central Time. All right, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, as I wrap up all of my videos during this never-ending pandemic, I hope all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, if you haven't subscribed to the Gaming Gang channel yet, click right here. If you'd like to see the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, click right up there. And if you want to trust YouTube's algorithm to give you something to watch, click right there. Once again, thanks so much for watching. And everybody, please wear a mask.